when you think about, so our background, let's talk really quick about our background, right? So we started a company called Bulu in 2012. In that company, we launched our first subscription box called Bulu Box, and it was pretty simple where we shared, where we sold 5 sampled products. Oh my God, how come I can't remember? Like I can't remember my pitch now. For $10 a month, you could order 4 to 5 premium vitamin and supplement samples to be delivered to your doorstep for a monthly surprise. Come back and buy products that you like and get them shipped on a recurring basis.
Yes, literally what you just said was the formula for the sales pitch for any subscription box that was made in 2012 to 2016.
Because everybody, we were all like, what would Birchbox do?
Yes.
Right? That was like the thing. I'm just
delivered directly to your doorstep.
Yes.
Isn't that novel?
But everybody was basically like figuring out subscription boxes, watching what other people are doing. And we all were watching. What were the first few subscription boxes that were actually out there? Because we were early. We were like 6 or 7.
Yeah, we would say WWBD in the early days of Bulu, which meant what would Birchbox do? Birchbox was basically delivering samples. It's a compliment. Was doing the same thing we were doing, but sampling beauty products, and we were doing that in vitamins and supplements. And historically, vitamins and supplements and everything was kind of a fast follower to beauty, as you would always say, Paul, because that was your background.
It's true.
So we use them a little bit as, a template for how to do things, especially in the early days.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who were some of the other early subscription boxes?
Who else? Let's see. So, which ones are still around too?
That's the real question.
Are still
right?
around. So, I mean, BarkBox was pretty early on.
Yep.
BarkBox has been around for a while.
Shout out to Manish.
Yeah.
What up?
Dollar Shave Club.
Yep.
Another big, huge success story.
They were very early though. They just kind of came in like a whirlwind, and they had that damn viral video.
Good
Which like
on them.
Unilever said, or whoever bought them, Procter or Unilever said, the reason that we bought them was because we were fearful what Procter and Gamble could do with that viral video in their hands.
Yeah.
And would they do like $234 million in capital, but never actually made $1 in profitability? That's like, just shows you the power of like right time, right place, right market. So like hats off to Dollar Shave Club.
I know.
So in the early days, give people like the setup of, we raise capital, we pack up our U-Haul, we go back to Nebraska, we find an office.
Yes.
Now you share some of the story from there.
About our office?
Yeah, all of
God.
it. Because I think that this is like good for, I think we're going to get a lot of like entrepreneurs and subscription box, like specifically owners. And it's a tough market right now because there's so much competition, but it's also a beautiful market because of subscription and repeat revenue and projection. And it's a nice tool to have in your box. But I want them to know like, it's not easy to start. Right?
Yeah. Well, the evolution of our offices and our warehouses is a good kind of storytelling, I guess, for like how far Bulu has come. So when we first started, we started in your parents' basement technically. But
I would have said we started in our
400 square foot San Francisco apartment. I guess, we were technically like incorporated and filing the paperwork back then.
Launched in San Francisco.
Yeah, and then we moved to Nebraska. We lived in your parents' basement. Our first office that we rented, Paul signed the paperwork before I even looked at it. Cool. Great idea. We don't do that anymore. And I look at the paperwork now.
Why do you need a toilet? Come on. Also, that's not a joke.
Yeah, it was like technically 3 little rooms, and there was no toilet.
Yep. We had the public library.
We had to walk around to the public library, not because of public libraries, but because of the restrooms in the public library.
Please pronounce it.
And so I'd alternate between walking to the library or walking to the bank so that they didn't see me too often during the day.
They got so mad we were blowing up their restrooms.
So we did that. Then eventually we graduated to another. Technically, I guess it was like an apartment / office, but Paul and I lived in the back room, And we sometimes had pancakes waiting for our team that we hired.
People would come
who
to
would
the
come
door
in the morning.
They would slowly open the door because they'd hear me running away from the dryer with my underwear. So they'd all knew to like crack the door and wait. And then I'd be like,
yeah. And at that time we were packing our boxes ourselves, and we were packing them in our actual office.
Which, not to mention, we had raised like $1 million in capital, but like, so we did the right thing with the money, but like we didn't have to do it that way. It's just we were trying to be respectful for salaries and investors
we were very frugal.
Very frugal.
So we packed boxes. Eventually, we rented out a warehouse. I think our first one we shared with another company, but it was probably 10,000 square feet?
Something like that.
Max. We shared it with another company who was like an online pet food supplier. So we did that, and then eventually outgrew that. Moved into how big was that? 30,000 square foot warehouse.
Which was the biggest thing that we ever saw.
Huge. And that
also,
warehouse.
how fun were the rocket skates that I bought that we used in there?
That's right, because it was right around Christmas.
Yeah,
and
I bought some electric skates and we went over there. And you think electric skates would be easy to use, like electric rollerblades or skates? They're impossible.
That's actually an interesting memory that's kind of like seared in my brain, because you gifted me rocket skates and I was like, what are these? I'm never going to wear these. They're like... It's like motorized roller skates.
Yeah.
And so
exactly what
he's like, well, this is what we're going to do. And we had just signed this lease for this 30,000 square foot warehouse, which at the time felt like a huge, and it was a huge, big milestone accomplishment.
We made a mistake.
We moved into a different office and we had this 30,000 square foot warehouse, and it was completely empty. And so we left our son at that point with a babysitter, and it was like late. And I remember it was like 9 or 10 at night, and we went and roller skated around the empty warehouse. And I remember thinking like, we've made it.
I was thinking, oh my God, how are we going to fill this thing?
Also that.
Also, my groin killed because electric roller skates apparently just torch your groin because it's so hard. But I think also it's important, like, you know, to get into some of the details. Like, people are like, well, how did you find your warehouse? Like, how did you, that's a big thing that we talk about with our partners now, is like, there's always a concern of like, you know, how did you find your warehouse? How did you find your labor? All of that stuff. Like, that warehouse was quite literally our operations guy driving around a warehouse area, and he saw this old dude, like, you know, pouring concrete, and he just got out of his car and he tried to like have a conversation with him, found out it was the guy's place. He was building the warehouse, and that was that. So people are like, how do these things happen? And I always say, like, just pick up the phone, or just like go there, like just do it, you know? And a lot of our relationships now and how we find space and people, it's like, there's no magic to it. We're just like showing up and picking up the phone and doing those things that people are like trying to figure out a hack around it. And you're like, no. You just go knock on the door, like literally knock on the door and ask them, can I rent this?
And that example came from our warehouse manager, Adam, which is awesome. But the other part, and like for anyone else who's like in the real startup phase, if you have in our co-founder relationship, Paul is the quote gallivanter, which basically means I was talking with another like startup co-founders. Yeah. And he's like, who's the gallivanter in your guys' relationship? I'm like, oh, Paul.
Yuck.
What it means though is that you're the one who gets out into the community. You form relationships that sometimes seem pointless. Like, why do we need to talk to so-and-so at some electric company or so-and-so at some blah, blah, blah.
Because you never let shit go through the cracks.
Yes. And this is what
gallivanting. That's just getting tight, yo.
To the like doers who are like in the office managing the team, executing the work, which is more the role that I play. While you're the gallivanter, gallivanting can seem sometimes like a waste of time. Yeah. Or like, why aren't you back here doing the work with me?
Sometimes it is because you think one thing, but then Yeah,
until you land Disney.
Right.
Because Paul was off gallivanting. Right. Which is what happened to us.
Which nobody wanted me. They're like, what's he doing getting on this plane? And like, whatever. And I'm like, I'm going to wander into Disney and close this deal. And they're like, whatever, you're just going to walk. I'm like, how many?
And the same thing with like, I think Shark Week, right? It was an outcome of you gallivanting. And there certainly are times where you're going to get sick of the word gallivanting. Oh God, it's one of those words that when you say it starts to sound really weird. When you were gallivanting, that like sometimes it is a waste. But that's the whole thing. You never know when those relationships will come in, or even talking to someone where that's a waste, but they refer you to somebody else. So,
but also to add to that, like, that is pointless if there's no execute. Somebody like you kind of like, okay, what am I going to do with this? Right.
Yeah.
Also, it just makes me think of like on my gravestone, I feel like somehow has to be the phrase like, okay, Paul, because that pretty much sums up my life where you're like, let's go get Disney. Okay, Paul. Actually, Paul. Oh,
shit, he did it.
Oh, shit, he did it. What do we do now? I was like, I told you. Okay, now what do you do?
Oh, great. Now I have to make a Disney subscription box in 60 days.
Yeah, we got this. Which like I feel like is worth adding. Like we don't go after those things if we don't know how to do them. It's just you're like, shit, it's Disney. That is a big deal. And like be cool, you know? Like, okay, how do we be cool, right?
Be cool.
Customer service is one thing that when I think back about our company is like the thing, and I think this happens to a lot of people launching subscription boxes or running subscription box companies. It is a complete afterthought. And when I talk to companies, I'm like, so what are you going to do for customer service? And they're like, oh yeah, like we haven't thought about that. Or, you know, frankly, like, you know, we had customer service set up, but then all the boxes went out and all of a sudden just bombarded with customer service. And your immediate thought is like, we did something wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like, what did we break? What went wrong? And then you soon realize that no matter how many alerts, notifications, whatever you send to people, you are always going to have a certain percent that just says like, where's my box? Where's my this? Where's that? And that's like a sobering insight, you know? And some of the things that we used to do in the beginning, I would make up customer service names because I wanted us to just not have Paul and Stephanie and Kate doing everything.
What you mean is that you were the person answering customer service. Yeah. And instead of saying, hi, I'm Paul and I'm here to address your issue, you'd make up a different name. Well, that's what you're saying.
Yes, but actually we couldn't even we didn't even have time to answer the phone. So we did everything email.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like it was like, you know, if they had to call, I'd be like, okay, like, hi, blah, blah, blah. Can I speak to your manager? One moment, please. Hi, this is Paul. I own the place. How can I help you? You're like, that's literally what we're doing. I mean, I would be like working out at the YMCA at like 8 p.m. and like taking customer service calls.
You were working out, you liar.
Back in the day, back in the day before kids.
Yeah, we did do
BK before
I
kids.
I remember that working out. Yeah, sounds familiar.
So we're doing a podcast.
Oh God.
But the what we would do is create like emails, and I'd have like Jennifer@bulubox.com and whatever. And you know, I think one time I even jokingly was like, oh yeah, Steve messed up, we fired him, or you know, whatever. But customer service is such an important thing. And it is the first line of, you know, I don't even want to say defense, like offense, right? And I think that a lot of people starting a company, you know, you can read online or like how to do it, or it's an afterthought, but like until you're actually in the mix and you start to see things like, well, maybe this should just go straight to our dev team. Like maybe this should go here. You know, maybe, you know, we can't be Zappos.
Yeah.
Right. So what are some of the like kind of early days of customer service things that come to mind that we experienced? But also I think I was doing it for the first like 14 months or 9 months or something in there.
Yeah, you were doing it a lot. Somehow I got away with doing not a ton of it. I certainly answered emails here and there.
Yeah, you were building the website.
Pinched hit. But the thing I'll say about working in customer service is I believe all of Bulu's, like a lot of Bulu's best and most talented employees have worked at some point.
Very true.
In customer service.
Yes.
And it's just so important to understand the customer's input and their pain points, what they love and what they hate. And we've turned that, and we like really encourage our partners to do product surveys and tell us what you think about the boxes so that we can gather that. And our customer service team are the ones who have the best suggestions on new features for the subscription, for the website, what type of products should go into the box. All of those things come from our customer experience team because they're the ones interfacing with our customers, our subscribers.
What are some of the softwares that we used back in the day? I remember it was just straight up Gmail. And then,
well, this is where we need Mariah to help.
Yeah, we should bring her. Should we bring Mariah in for our first episode?
Is that our segue now?
I don't know. Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, let's bring Mariah.
I mean, we don't know what we're talking about these days. We need
Mariah.
Mariah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like you do, but then you know enough to know like, well, I don't know how we do it now.
Yeah.
But so there's like for the startup people, it's like, you know, you got to get it done. You got to like, my suggestion would definitely be like, you know, recognize empathy versus sympathy. That's very important. So saying sorry to a customer will a lot of times piss them off, but saying like, hey, I understand. I've been there before. This thing happened to me. There's a great video by Brene Brown, which I'm sure we can post a link somewhere in what we're doing. Sympathy versus empathy. That was kind of the basis of a lot of our customer service. And then, you know, little things, which I actually learned at other companies is like, it's really easy just to give a customer like, here's your money back or here's whatever back. But like that shit adds up fast. Right. And so there's a lot of those things that you learn starting up. But I think now since, you know, we have, you know, doing customer service for multiple clients and we have done it for Disney and like how to answer like a princess and all of that stuff. Like that's definitely more for the other people that are actually running and doing those things, which Mariah, let's talk a little bit maybe about our first guest then, Mariah. Like what do we know about her?
Oh, Mariah. Okay. So Mariah Nimmich will join us here in a second. And Mariah joined us. She was, I don't know if it was early in her career.
Early.
I don't know. She probably had like one or two other jobs. I can't even remember for sure. But I remember when she came and interviewed because Paul came out and said, that might have been one of the best interviews I've ever, like interviewees I've ever like met with.
Yep.
And to this day, Paul's like, she did like a stellar interview. So I remember that even like
we'll
from the very
have to ask her
first,
like what she did. Like, what did you do?
I don't know.
Like,
She probably was prepared because
I remember
Mariah is like me. She's always prepared.
I remember she was very prepared. And I thought the fact that she handled this interview so well, but she didn't have a lot of experience, I'm actually not worried about her not having experience because I was just so impressed at the homework she did, the way that she presented herself. Like, it's like, you know, there's people that have a good interview, but then there's people that do their research, have a good interview. There's people that do their research, have a good interview. Then they do a follow-up card and a thank you card. And I'm like, God damn, she did every single box. She checked all the boxes, which is like, you and I are the only other people, you know, when we used to interview for jobs, like we were the only ones that I know that ever did those things. You know, nowadays you're like, did you send a thank you card? And people are like, what are you talking about?
I
like,
emailed.
You idiot. You got to stand out across everything. Like, come on. Yeah. So, well, let's bring her on and talk some shop with her. Let's talk box talk with Mariah. No, that's
Box Talks.
Box Talks with Mariah.
Customer service edition.
Yeah, there you go. So today we have Mariah Nimmich on Box Talks, who is also a Bulu, we say teammate, another word is employee. You've been here for a long time. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Stephanie and I, as we're launching this podcast, we got into customer service. So we thought we're going to magically make you appear on the podcast if you have time.
What a coincidence.
Yes.
I just so happened to be nearby.
And, you know.
Hey guys, I heard you were talking about customer service. Could I lend a hand?
Sure. Here's a beer. Let's
Here we
go.
are.
Good customer service is always there when you need it, Stephanie.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah. So I think it would be really valuable for, you know, not just necessarily for subscription boxes, which I do think that's a bit of a different beast, but, you know, anybody that's starting their own company, but not only that, they're running a company or they're growing, or frankly, like, you know, having worked with Disney and being trained to run their subscription box, or, you know, working with them to develop the subscription box program. I just think there's so much for you to kind of offer, right? So now I'm like building it up and you're like, shit, what am I going to talk about? Don't worry, we'll edit it. But what can you share? Let's talk about maybe first, let's get into like, we were talking about when you first interviewed and, you know, how that went. And I think we probably got a little bit of our perspective on it. Do you remember that? And like, take us back to that time and then we'll probably jump into customer service a little bit.
Sure. I remember first getting lost in the hallways trying to find the office because it was at the back of the third floor of a building. I had lived in Lincoln for like 6 months, had done a semester at UNL, had no idea where anything was, and was like so nervous getting in that I was just going to be late. I remember like texting you from the hallway, like I'm near the elevator and I'm lost, and like somebody came to get me. I don't remember. And so yeah, I remember kind of like feeling like I was starting off on a uncertain foot because I was just like, they're gonna think I'm stupid. I can't walk down a hallway.
It's part of the interview process.
But I didn't give up, and you texted me and said, text me if you need help. And I was like, well, this is a good sign, right? Like at least you offered.
Yep.
So I'm going to do it. So somebody came to get me. I don't remember who. And then
Jenny from the block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And led me back to the office. But definitely did a lot of preparation ahead of time. My dad is a salesman, lifelong salesman. And so I think I was like born with a little bit of that skill, but I also grew up riding in the back of the car on the way to school, like listening to his sales cassette tapes in like our old van.
Yeah.
So
Jeff's a stud.
Yes,
he is awesome. Jeff Nimmich.
Yes.
And I've had a few he's about it. I mean, he knows his shit inside and out. So his experience, Jeff Nimmich, I'm plugging it.
Edit that in a lot.
Yeah. So that helped you in your interview.
Yep, sure. So I, was luckily grew up with that support and parents who like prepped me for doing those things in my life. So, but one of the key things I remember him teaching me is like ask questions, like don't talk about yourself as much. You'll get, and this is also relates really well. Sales and customer service is the same thing. You're just storytelling in a different way when you're solving a problem than when you're selling a product. But ultimately it's a lot of the same activity. So that, I think that was a lot of it for me was, asking questions about the business and where you are. I had done a lot of research. I'd read every article I could find on the Bulu Box website, about you guys. I think there was like a series of guest articles from Silicon Prairie News.
Nice.
I actually remember being really nervous because this has changed a lot since I've worked for Bulu for almost 8 years. But I said the word asshole because one of Bulu's core values is fire the assholes.
Yeah.
And I was so quiet and nervous about saying that.
Made
and
me feel better.
You cracked up about it and you're like, you can curse. And I was like, don't tell my mom.
Yes.
This is it was so nerve-wracking to say a bad word in front of.
Oh shit, you can't curse. What the fuck are you doing?
Exactly.
It still makes our president uncomfortable when he has to recite our core values. He's like, fire the mean people.
Yeah.
We got a new game after our board meeting. We're trying to make him say smart ass and sass. Which is a client that we work with. So it's fun. I was like, this is probably the first time we've ever used those two words, like smart ass and sass. So,
yeah.
So that's what we're going to try to get Hank to do now.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, we continue.
We'll add that to the channel in Slack and let us know when it happens because there will be celebration. So that I remember asking a lot of questions about the company, where it was going. And I think the title of the job I was interviewing for was literally do awesome shit intern.
Yep.
And it was like, you'll do whatever we need.
Yeah.
I don't feel like your title has actually changed that much.
Yeah.
Just do some awesome shit.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
So I started actually one of the very first days that I was working was like packing replacement shipments in the closet in your bedroom.
Yeah. That sounds creepy, but it is true.
We're not creepy, hopefully.
You're around me. You got to be a certain level of creepy. And tolerant.
That's where all the products were.
Yeah.
I was by myself.
Rex is with
maybe
you
that's weirder.
probably. Maybe. So
let's fast forward to customer service. Can we do that?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
We were there. That was early customer service for Bulu Box, and I think we're on the same page of so what's it like now? Or you can ask the question now.
I thought we'd at least start with what does it mean when we say that Bulu offers customer service? Like wrap that up in what it is we actually do and offer.
Because originally we had our own subscription box, and that's
for Bulu Box.
Yeah, and when there was no other boxes out there, I mean, we were just literally figured do awesome shit. It was pretty much that and what would Birchbox do, right? Mm-hmm. So actually we would subscribe to other subscription boxes and sometimes copy what they're saying or do what they're doing, just make it better. But 9 years is a long time, and now there's over 7,000 something subscription boxes, and you go from working with one of the smallest brands in the world to literally one of the biggest brands, maybe the biggest brand in the world. So what's that like? What's customer service like now?
Sure. I mean, from a practical point of view,
What a shameless plug by Stephanie.
I think we need to know what it is, right?
Yeah.
People would expect that out of me. No, I just had to say that because that's
you keep
something
turning
that I
the
would
light
do.
on, Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're blinding
okay, you
me.
just keep going. There you go. Okay.
Yeah. So customer service at Bulu means we support the end user customers of the subscription boxes that we fulfill, do websites for, project manage, all that, with email, social media, live phone support for anything related to their account or their orders. But on the back end, the real value that I think we provide to partners like Disney, BuzzFeed, Scott's Miracle-Gro is our customer service team is really an experience-led team. So they're looking at, you mentioned surveys earlier, looking for trends and data and really looking at improving the overall end-to-end customer experience from the first time they hear about the brand to the moment that they're using the products in the box that they get every month. So
yes.
Did that work?
That was good.
Okay.
So that's what I just wanted to tee up, like what exactly we're talking about. And just so we can lend even more credibility to you, because you're the director of you built out this department at Bulu. So you started out replying to emails for Bulu Box, but now you've built out a team of multiple agents, and we've worked on a lot of programs. And so just to lend credibility to you and what you do, what are some of the more exciting brands and box programs that you have worked on, you and your team?
Sure. Well, definitely we started with Bulu's first brand, Bulu Box. But some of my favorite projects have been the 30th anniversary official Shark Week box.
Yeah.
I love working on the Disney boxes. The Disney Princess Enchanted collection was the first of the 3 Disney programs that we worked on. And, Disney is the brand that you study when you want to know how to do good customer experience.
Yes.
I almost said guest because we literally adopted and trained with all of their language, all of their, and that's the great thing also about our team is they can switch and support, answering it one way for one brand, picking up the phone and storytelling their way through, Glitter and the Fairy Godmother in the next minute. So, a lot of all encompassing sort of activities there, but those are two of my personal favorites.
Yeah.
That's awesome. If there isn't a moment of our team figuring stuff out and troubleshooting it, I just have to say that I'm getting texts from Nicole, and she's informing me that Stephanie's mic doesn't work via live stream on LinkedIn, and she's literally giving me instructions share your mic with her. Mariah's, I'm you're the best, Nicole. Thank you, Nicole. So and I just think that.
Nicole's here.
Yeah, totally.
Next time.
Totally.
Oh, what a coincidence.
Yeah. But I think that, that's part of the magic of our team is, it's, they always say the people that, start the company aren't the people that can scale. And a lot of times I'm bullshit. Sometimes, yes. But also you got to be willing and they have to be willing to kind of retrain themselves. And Mariah is the quintessential goes from, starting customer service at a super small company with Bulu Box, transitions into all this other stuff, and then earns the respect of, Disney and Lunarly and, Scott's Miracle-Gro. I mean, that's super impressive. I mean, we probably don't tell you enough. It's super impressive.
Thanks.
Thank you for all you do. It's really pretty amazing. And I think when you're in the mix, we are day in and day out, you really never stop to think about oh shit, that is a big deal. That's Disney. I just had a meeting with Disney. We just sold the service
Disney
to whatever.
entrusted their brand to us, to represent. It is a big deal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I can say with, 100% certainty that that was all you, you crushed it. So, and that's also why when, we're going into our 2021 annual planning and I see Mariah has information on how she wants the customer service to go and whatever, I'm and you're hey, I want to, meet before. And I'm whatever, we'll do as much as we can of your plan. Trust me. And I know it's good. And, you look over it and that's what happens over time with, developing talent and, that's all I'll just pat myself on the back. I spotted it in the first interview. No, I'm kidding. but it was there in a sense in the first interview, and just that level of preparedness 8-9 years ago, that's still there. So it's super cool. What are some of the, okay, I got 2 questions for you. Ready? Okay. One, what are some of the things that you wish you could go back and tell yourself that might be valuable for, subscription box owners, people running their business now? Like, you're like, oh man, if I could just take a time machine and shake myself and go, Mariah, you need to blah, blah, blah. Like, what are some of those things?
I think the number one thing, especially if you are the CEO or, just starting out with the company, and maybe you're a small team and your customer service is the job you do at night, on top of everything else, or is like, don't take it personally.
Yeah.
It's so hard. And this is like, that sympathy versus empathy thing you were mentioning with that video. It's still part of our customer service training, because whether you've been in the business for 10 years or this is your first job out of college, which customer service a lot of times is more of an entry level kind of a role in a company, is that it's not about you. It's not an attack on you personally. Right. If they're unhappy with the product, if they're unhappy with the, FedEx delivery driver who you have no control over, is like, don't let it get to you.
Yeah.
Step back and see that bigger picture, because that's where all of the main, like, beautiful insights and analytics come from, is by removing your own emotions. But it's hard when you're in a role that is very personal, right? You're one-on-one with people. That I think I struggled when we were, began adding some of our larger clients. That's where, like, personally, I had the hardest time, was just remembering it's not about me.
Right.
So
it's just a box.
Right. It's just a damn box. So you made me realize, like, we were talking earlier in the episode about like you were like, how come I didn't do any customer service? Right? You were saying something like that.
I somehow got away with not having to do it very often.
And as Mariah was talking about it, I was like, oh my God, I remember why I took all of the customer service, because one of the first emails that came in happened just to be connected to me, because it was like a MailChimp or some account. And it was like somebody that was like bashing the product. And I was like, I don't want Stephanie to see this, because like, here we are, like, we had successful careers, right? And we're like doing great in advertising and whatever. And somehow I con my awesome, brilliant wife to like take everything and to like put it online, invest all of our time and money and resources. And you work so hard on this thing, and you put your baby into the world. And the first comment is, that's ugly.
Your baby.
Your baby's ugly. And I was like, I'll just take customer service. I'll just do it. But it's crazy also how like I've put that in a box, and I knew it's like, don't take it personal. Don't like, well, guess what? Like, you do, but what you have to do is like continue to tell yourself, and it's just like anything, you develop thick skin towards it. Like, you become okay with it. But it's funny that it took you saying that for me to realize, like, oh yeah, that's why I did customer service, because I didn't want you to know how nasty it was.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that is like very related to that I hear you point out a lot to our partners, Mariah, and I remember even Paul pointing this out in the early days, is that just because there's one really loud voice doesn't mean it represents everybody. So like, we would get like maybe 2 emails, and they were just like really upset because there was some product in the box that they thought was bad or whatever. And we would just like pull the fire alarm. Like, what are we going to do? And then we have to stop and remind ourselves, we've got 10,000 subscribers and 2 people. Like, that's a drop in the pool, and we can't sound the fire alarm. And so we even do that now with our partners, especially if there's comments on social, right, Mariah? Because that's where like everyone can see them, and we have to remind them, one loud person doesn't represent everybody.
Or how many times do we work with a company that's like, they're B2B, right? And they're not used to like developing a product, or maybe the innovation team or somebody, they're not used to like building something and like throwing it out there really quickly. And you can tell them all you want, like, hey, you're going to get chatter. You're going to get, we're online, whatever it is. And then something, some CEOs kid's cousin sends it to somebody, and it's like a 2-second blip on YouTube of like, oh, I hate the color of this box. And then it's like all panic breaks out and you're like, just because they're not used, like, I get it, but they're not used to it of like, that's just going to happen, right? And it is nice. I think, we've done, whether subscription box or other programs, I think we're close to 50 now, which is crazy. Like just like gift boxes,
That's
like
wild.
whatever. Yeah, we gotta like sit down and like put all the logos down, because I look at it and I'm like, that can't be right. And then I'm like, yep. Did that one. You're like, oh my God, that's so many different programs. And like almost every time it's like, you gotta warn people of these things. And I think the important thing too is like the benchmarks, right? Like what percentage of it. And I think that could be valuable to share. That's actually, I think, probably the most valuable thing that you can share.
We just talked about benchmarks with a partner last week, right, Mariah? Mariah's like, well, this number means nothing unless we have a benchmark. I'm like, you're right.
Exactly. That's the thing with, I especially see either with, account or program managers coming in from large organizations that have probably never worked in a customer facing role. Or, we've worked with some brands that are emerging or just launching, and like the CEO is the one that I'm sharing reports with. And that's always the kind of beginning of our customer service relationship is understand when something is truly an issue. The great thing is, Bulu, having done so many subscription boxes for so long, millions of shipments out the door, millions of incoming, customer service tickets the other direction.
Thinking about it.
Yeah. I once counted up how many personal customer service tickets I've answered. And now as the director of the department.
I told you guys. I told you guys.
Yeah.
We were doing like 200. I was like, we'll be fucking doing 1 million. And okay, Paul.
Okay,
Paul. Actually, Paul.
Ideas are great.
I brought it back.
But yeah, the, millions in, millions out. I've just sort of seen it all. And that's the value that, Bulu can bring to another brand is the fact that we know what's normal and what's not. So we know when to bring, when to sound that fire alarm. But the kind of key things that people should always think of when it comes to subscription specifically is this isn't an e-commerce product, a one-time buy, right? It's not, I bought this, batteries from Amazon, had them delivered. I used the batteries. That's it.
For what would you use the batteries for?
I just bought some for my keyboard.
Okay.
Paul.
What? I just know what Amazon.
We're just as terrible for knowing.
I just know what Amazon.
HR finger wag, Paul.
I know.
I just know what Amazon's number 1 and 2 selling products are. Google it.
Keyboards.
Keyboard batteries.
My wireless, my Bluetooth keyboard.
Why? What did you guys?
Now you're gonna.
I know.
Right. Move on, Mariah.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about right now.
The point
I'm lost.
is with subscription customer service is that it's more of a relationship management than, a one and done purchase. And every box every subsequent box that subscriber gets is building on that previous interaction they had with your brand. And so every time they expect it to be better than the last. And so that's one of the first things that we train agents to look at when they're answering an email. Open that account history. How long have they been subscribed? Because that'll give you a real good framework for kind of what they're expecting from your brand. And also, the longer you're subscribed, honestly, the better stuff we can pull out of the hat for you if you do need some sort of above and beyond response. But
without naming names, out of respect for the, all brands, what's the weirdest shit that you've ever read or seen or whatever? And maybe this is like a little bit like cathartic. We don't like, this isn't like talk shit about client or like customers or whatever, but like, what's just like something where you're like, oh my God, that was unreal. And maybe it's like something that happened to a shipment, or maybe it's like an email that you received or whatever it is. But like, what's like something that just instantly comes to mind?
I think it'll be pretty easy to figure out what I'm talking about.
I want to hear the same thing from Stephanie, because I know one thing that I saw all the time that like I'll share.
I think I know where you're going. But for me, kind of the most bizarre thing I've ever had to call a meeting about was talking to our warehouse team about glitter.
Oh, like wearing glitter, and like
glitter in the box, getting, I have never ever, actually this one escalated
by the way,
so far.
Love you warehouse team and your glitter.
They're amazing. They did a great job with it. But this actually, very rarely do things escalate so far because we have a great team that I have to get involved. Sometimes I do just out of curiosity because I want to talk to somebody.
The glitter was from me.
Paul was really upset about.
And this was glitter
from there.
This was glitter from the contents of the box, right?
Right. So they opened.
Yes.
I thought it was like body glitter.
No.
You can also potentially guess who the partner program was, but the products we were putting inside a box had glitter on them.
Exactly.
Yes,
which is every mother's nightmare.
Exactly. However, I don't know how you would expect this product to come without that item.
Right.
That's just a side note. But the caller was very upset about
The glitter.
the quantity of glitter and
wow.
what happened with it. And, this is the product. If you're unhappy, here's what we can do for you. But I had never in my life thought that I would, grow up and be a big kid running a team at a company and have to call our warehouse manager.
Emergency glitter meeting.
Conference room, 5 minutes.
Assemble.
We're talking about glitter, goddammit.
Yeah, that was probably the most bizarre topic.
Yeah.
As far as nothing really particularly weird comes to mind, but probably just because I see things that are so out of probably other people's ordinary, but it's my normal that it doesn't faze me.
Yeah.
But we do keep a special file of like the most creative cursing. It's a very small file, luckily, because we do a great job and people are happy. For the most
I bet that's a
part.
good file.
But I mean, I thought I'd heard it all, having, a brother who's in the military and all that. I thought I'd heard really creative cursing. I was shocked.
It's an art form.
It is.
And then you met crafting at home people.
Yeah. Well, and I remember
obscure category it is.
I remember joking about these back when I did like respond to a few emails here and there. I would like kind of serve as backup if we like had more or whatever. Is those emails felt like, I mean, to use the stereotype, it's like Karen, right? They were Karens who were emailing in, and they would like throw all these like, let me talk to your manager, and like, how dare, like, this is all, everything is wrong. And then it would have the signature like, Karen, did you love and live and laugh today? Learn and grow and be kind to everyone. And then like the whole content of the email was just like attacking this poor customer service agent who they've never met before.
Exactly. The overlap of inspirational quotes in your email signature and how hot you come in to customer service is very high.
Yeah.
It's very high.
That was what I was going to say. If I ever see a quote or pink font in a Bible verse or whatever, any sort of like big thing, it's like the more, like Comic Sans, pink, really long, you're in trouble.
Right? Karen's coming for you.
Yeah. Which like, there's probably people listening going like, shit, that's me. And not always. I'm just saying that like, that was almost always the more frustrated and longer the email, there was always some sort of like live, laugh, love.
The irony.
Which also I got to say, like one of the coolest Karens I know is actually Stephanie's aunt.
Shout out to my Aunt Karen.
Yeah, she is cool. But
I'm sorry your name got turned into a bad meme.
Sucks. I also feel like it's just a matter of time before like Paul turns into one or whatever.
Probably.
But I also do have to say that we were fixing something on our house the other day, and somebody walks by and she looks at it and she goes, I really don't like that yellow. Just randomly. I was like, okay, talk to her. I was like, hi, I'm Paul. What's your name? Karen. I was like, of course. And I bet she'll probably listen to this podcast and be upset, but no.
It's all right.
But I was like, son of a.
The thing with those.
We just lost all of our Karen listeners forever.
All three of them.
All 0 of them.
All 0.
If we're going to say it now.
Yeah.
The thing about those types of situations is always, and I always train our agents to step back and think of it this way, is like, they're just trying to exert control over a situation, probably.
Right.
Like, you never know what's going on in someone's day-to-day life, or if they had a really bad day and they sent that email. And that's just the one point of interaction you have with them. Yep. And so it doesn't matter how you come in. Like, what comes back from us is always like the right tone for the brand that we're doing customer service for.
Yes.
And that's the really important part.
And just to like put balance to this and everything that we're putting out into the world, and that like there's these like customers that can be awful sometimes. I just have to also point out that there are times when our customer service agents have like gotten handwritten thank yous. I think they even got a candy bouquet one time.
Yes.
So like there's this complete like on the other side,
we got one.
We've gone,
which took me forever to understand that. I was like, why are we sending candy bouquets?
And we're like, it's some random customer who just was super pleased with their experience with our customer service team. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty outstanding because.
Yeah. And it's not always the case because I also think it's important for people running their companies or working with customer service to understand like what are you allowed to, what are the parameters, right? Like I said, like, you know, not everybody can be a Zappos, but like, you know, if you do have budget or you can do those things, like, you know, like I remember early on we'd like randomly buy people like an ice cream cone or whatever it was, right? But,
sure.
You know, you can only buy so many ice cream cones until you get to a point. But you know, when you have like 3 customers, you're like, buy them ice cream cones because they will definitely tell somebody that, you know, we got an ice cream cone.
And stepping back to like why are they even reaching out, right? Like nobody contacts customer service because things are going perfectly.
Right. Yep.
That's just a fact. Customer service exists because things go wrong.
You nailed it.
And the important part again is like what's a normal amount of wrong? And then
or an acceptable amount of wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. With a subscription too, like everything is relentless, right? It never stops. You're always finding the next product to go in the box, packing it, shipping it, buying, packing, shipping, buying, packing, shipping over and over.
I'm drinking on that one.
And that's where I mean, a lot of our incoming partners, potential, current, past, you know, they reach out for help with customer service because it's just exhausting if you don't know what to expect. And with subscription, like it's never going to stop as long as you're selling.
Yeah. Right. And you can't ignore it.
No.
So you have to stop what you're doing and respond to those customers, which means there's an opportunity cost of doing something else to grow your business. So yeah, it is. And that's why people end up doing it at night before they go to bed. Like, let me respond to at least 24 customers and then I'll go to sleep.
The amount of times I've said, like, you didn't start this business to just do customer service, like, 24/7. So like get some support, get some of those things off your plate.
That's a really good point. We're here because that's when usually there's a question or something went wrong.
Yeah.
But that also brings me to why, one of the things we advocate so much for with our partners is customer surveys. So each month or quarter, whatever the frequency is that we send a box, follow up with a survey, because giving them that survey is an outlet actually for positive feedback, right? Tell us how pleased you were with the box. Sometimes if you weren't pleased, but that's how we're able to get that feedback and get that product. We always say we want to get our product to a 5-star product every month. Like, how do we create a 5-star box? So maybe you can talk a little bit about the surveys and what they are and why we do them, and maybe a few examples of how you and your team have taken that information and helped to grow a business because we've made an even better product.
Yeah. And I'd say it starts maybe one step back from surveys, just like with reporting with any interaction you have with a customer. You can do this very manually if you don't have software or don't have the budget for software up front. Keep a spreadsheet, Control F, search for keywords in export your emails from Gmail and look for trends. There are ways to do this without having to spend $12,000 a year on software. But either way, it starts with having and tracking kind of what you see and what you don't see. And that's where, we say it's really normal for a pretty standard subscription program to have about a 15% contact rate every month. That means 15% of your active subscribers will reach out to you in some form or fashion over the course of a shipment cycle, or we usually go off calendar months just because that's easiest to report on. People live in that time frame. So know what's normal for you. If you're just launching a brand, you're just going to track a bunch of stuff and then set your benchmarks, because you probably just will not know what's normal and what's not, especially when you're just getting your feet off the ground. In fact, we always say internally when we're launching a program that the first month add 10% to that contact rate, just because it's new and you're probably going to have issues.
Right.
Along some.
And to just be safe and plan ahead.
Exactly.
Right?
I always like to have and not need than need and not have. Right.
Sure.
And I think that's how we structure everything in our customer service department. Is have it set up and ready to go, whether or not you actually have to activate it and use it, whether that's staff or, items in the warehouse that you can send to make someone happy or, whatever that thing is.
Yep.
So once with surveys, the key is to look for those trends. Whether you're asking questions about the box they just received, which is just the basics, start there. Ask them about the box they got. What was the condition? Did it get damaged during shipping? How easy was it for them to purchase or use the items in the box?
Send me a photo.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we kind of stick to the really well-rounded, well-recognized industry metrics. Like we will have subscribers rate boxes from like 1 to 5 stars. That's usually the first question in almost all of our external surveys to customers. And then usually like a net promoter score, NPS.
Yep.
How likely would you be to recommend this product to a friend?
Yes, my favorite.
Yes. If you ask nothing else, ask those questions. The great thing is, like after a while, you'll start to see what works and what doesn't work. And then you can dive deeper from there. We have surveys that are like, for some of our programs that are split between like different subscriber groups or different geographic locations because we care about different things. One of our programs, we ship a live plant. Obviously, we need to know where you are.
Yes.
And anonymous surveys are kind of the standard. So, we're appending that customer data on the back end. So we don't know your name, but we know you're in Georgia.
Just visualize this like lonely cactus on a doorstep.
Exactly. Exactly. No, cactuses are great to ship, Paul.
There you go.
But the thing about surveys with anything customer service related is, don't take that one loud, one unhappy, or one super happy person as the rule.
Right? Yeah.
You got to look and really understand the bigger picture related to it.
That is all super good content. I'm just like, I was like thinking about how much I wish that this would exist when we were starting. Just like reassurance of like, oh, okay. Like we're not like, we're not awful doing what we're doing. So that was super valuable. I think we should end these by asking like a concrete question of like what softwares, like I always know when I hear stuff, and I'm actually in a position where I'm, doing things, I want to hear like that's all great. And the benchmarks and the metrics that's like a lot of meat. But I also am like, I always wonder when I listen to these business podcasts, I'm like, what softwares are they using?
Softwares, and shameless plug again, we have an entire like checklist that Mariah's put together that's a resource.
Oh shit, yeah, you started selling that, didn't you?
I did.
Oh yeah,
so you can get it on bulugroup.com. I mean, it's like $9. So when we say we're selling it,
one of the things that we've started to do is like create this content, and one of the interesting things that we found is like we're trying to give content away for free and like nobody buys it, and then we put it at a high price, nobody buys it, and so now we have like a business model on our website for like $96, which for some reason people will buy that. And then we have customer service for, I forget what it is.
It's like $9.99 for a ebook download.
Yeah. Which Mariah
and it's like a workbook. It's like a checklist workbook. It's not just content you can find anywhere.
Believe me, $9.99 is worth it for the 9 years of blood, sweat, and tears that went into figuring out.
And it's
and like learning it the hard way.
How dare you?
And it's like this thing where you're like,
$9?
It's like this thing where you're like, well, obviously we're not trying to like make money off of it, but by assigning a value to it, like it actually makes it so people like will click and read it and download it. I can't agree more.
Psychology.
Yes. Psychology. Oh, I was late.
Interesting. Let's do a survey about that. But let's talk about.
Wait, let's say that again on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Psychology.
Tricked you guys. Okay.
I was like, what word are we saying? Psychology.
I like that psychology. So let's though end on that of like, what are the softwares, and obviously plug the e-download. I totally forgot about that, but I do love when you're on Slack, like sold another one, because you're like, oh, it's like somebody cares and it's going to help them, right?
Yeah.
So let's end on that. What are some of the softwares that you recommend expensive or, whatever it is?
Well, I'd say if you're just starting out, the best software for you is probably the one that integrates with either your fulfillment system or your e-commerce platform, whether that's Shopify, Magento, whatever that is, or on the warehouse side, there's like 9,000. So I'm not going to name names there. But
And what software, when you say like the best software is for what integrates? Because I think there's some people out there that are like, wait,
sure.
what does she mean?
Well, if you're just getting started out, it's great to use like a Gmail account. But the best thing is, a system that can do things and track metrics for you. Anything with analytics built in, anything that lets you transfer, an email between teams.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be, sometimes they call them CRMs.
Yep. Which is confusing because marketing calls them CRMs.
Exactly.
And,
This is different.
We're going to destroy acronyms on this show on purpose, like just nuke them.
Exactly. Like this isn't going to be probably anything related to the tools your marketing team is. If you're doing like a D2C subscription box, that might be different if it's, a business or B2B scenario. But if you're like selling something on your own website to somebody, you need, a desk.com. Zendesk is what we use at Bulu. It integrates so well with all of our other systems without needing like a lot of tech support. I can do most of it myself and I don't beep boop bop boop. So, that's a win and also a very good thing for our tech team not to have to get pulled into to all that. It integrates, you can see Shopify order data. It can support multiple brands, which our team, can be supporting 50,000 subscribers from 6 different brands at different times of the year as programs ebb and flow. So the shipping cycles, go through that. That Zendesk was the win for us. I think Salesforce bought desk.com, which was our very first platform.
I remember desk.com.
Yeah, RIP.
Yeah.
That I cut my teeth.
Did we use Odesk at one time or Odesk became
Odesk
Desk?
is for collaborating with
I don't remember.
It's different. It's for collaborating with like freelance.
Dude, what was that one thing we used from Google, like the project management tool, like day one? Was it do.com?
Yes.
Oh, ouch.
Do.com.
That was only like a week, and then I was like, pretty much a sauna all the way through.
I was like, it's Google. It's got to be good. I mean, that was way, and there was like, shut up, do sucks.
That was before there was a sauna, I think.
And
so. If sauna was out there, it was brand new. I don't think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But for customer service software, best thing for your company is probably going to be the one that integrates with either your e-commerce website or your fulfillment team, because those are the two most important functions that customer service interacts with. So like be native to them, adapt to them. Don't make them adapt to you. That's when you have issues, getting things right for customers. What Bulu does now currently, and this tech stack is designed to support a lot of programs because that's, we're always serving multiple brands. So that we got to be able to kind of switch between those really easily. So we use Zendesk for managing, emails, phone calls. We use it for some social media. We use Sprinkler primarily because we do social media support.
I've never even heard of some of these before.
Yeah,
I know.
Bad.
Well, Sprinkler's fairly new to us.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We were using Sprout Social before, which is great, but we've had the opportunity to integrate with our larger team partners at Scott's Miracle-Gro, and they use Sprinkler so that we could do a little bit more efficient interfacing with partners there. So that was a big win. Actually, recently, just in the last 2 months, we made that switch from Sprout Social to Sprinkler. So that's a fantastic program. Also integrates with everything. Yeah. For surveys, we use Qualtrics.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of the creme de la creme, right?
It is. And we've tested a lot of other programs. I love things like SurveyMonkey.
Right.
Typeform is another one for you can build really beautiful surveys in Typeform.
That one's really pretty.
Yep.
But as far as just like built-in analytics that make your job easier, especially if you're like me and you're doing it for tons of brands at a time every month, is something like Qualtrics that has a lot of analytics tools built into it. So I push a button and it makes the pretty graphs for me.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm also not a designer.
It's crucial. So, all right. Well, that was, man, I feel like I learned something. I feel bad that I should say it, but I'm like,
I also feel like we barely like skim the surface.
I feel like I could keep
everything
talking about this.
we could talk about when it comes to customer service.
I also really like talking, which is why I do customer service.
Yeah. Because I know like determining, like you mentioned, subscription is just relentless, right? But that also means that it's predictable. And so like you can set up like, what are the most important macros to have ready so that we can be as efficient as possible and respond to the most customer service. So all of those things are just like unique to a subscription box, I think. And plug, it's all in your
Beginner's Guide
to customer service.
At bulugroup.com.
Also, I love how we started the podcast and Stephanie's like, I don't know what we're doing. And then we started talking about work and she's like, this. So, yeah.
Once we get rolling, I knew
it would work.
I like to talk about our business, so that part's easy.
Yes. So I think for like the structure and everything, though, for us just winging it, like the whole kind of like intro, bring in somebody. I'm actually really excited now to bring in other people on our team. I'm looking at you, Nicole and Chrissy, and just get to, especially with COVID and everything, like just get to spend some time with people and like learn more about what they're doing. And, we have time set aside, but this is just like a deeper conversational platform. And I'm like, shit, when's the last time I've had a good long conversation with Mariah?
Well, I mean, Bulu, we have a lot of subject matter experts like here on our team. So even though
I learned some stuff,
we plan to bring in
partners.
Some exciting guests from the industry, the subscription box industry. So there will certainly be that. But, when it comes to launching and managing programs, we've worked on, like you said, close to 50 box projects, but we've launched ongoing subscription box programs. I think we've launched 16 or 17. And I don't think there's anybody that has launched and managed more programs than our team. So like we know what we're talking about.
That's the thing is like these podcasts and shit, they have people on, like frankly, like me, that they're like, oh, the CEO. And like they talk like top level and it's like, go get them, Tiger. And you're like, what the fuck did I just listen to? Like I've heard, and then like, I think our angle of like, let's talk to people that are actually doing the work. Like probably what will net of it is like, it's not going to be a massive podcast, but it's going to be super valuable to people. So like, to me, like that's really exciting. And then it checks other boxes of like, of course, marketing, which is nice. But like, oh my God, I get to, talk with Mariah and learn more. And we get to like reminisce a little bit and all that stuff. So I don't know about you guys, but like, I'm super stoked to like, just do this and check all those boxes. But I think it's going to be really fun. It'll be also like, not to get too like mushy, but like have a time capsule of it. Yeah. Dude, we should bring in people that used to work for our company.
Ooh. I would love that.
Oh, that would be so cool.
I've already actually talked to somebody about that. So
oh boy.
Name names so they feel forced to do it.
Carissa, come talk about our financial modeling.
Yeah.
We've got
Wesley.
People are going to be like, all they want to do is like sell tools, but we've got a really cool financial model template that really, I mean, we use it on every program that we launch.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm super, super proud of it. It's like a body of work that I had very little to do with. Carissa had a lot to do with. Bailey had a lot to do with. But bringing either of them in to talk about financial modeling and what's unique about a subscription box that you might not normally think about.
And maybe I can take a go at wrapping it up on that note because
ooh, I like this.
I think the benefit of Bulu and the thing that, I hope this podcast does for anyone who's listening is like, we've learned everything maybe the hard way, maybe a little bit harder than it needed to be way. And if, either the tools that we make available or the stories that get shared on here can make running a really difficult business like a subscription business even just a smidge easier for someone. And there's space for all of us to succeed. That's what I love about working at Bulu and our variety of partners. It's like there's an abundance mentality in that. Is like if we can make it 1% easier for anybody out there, like that's staying true to our pledge, our company pledge. It's on the wall in the office in the warehouse. And I actually keep it in my home office now that I'm there most of the time. Is like we work hard to stay one step ahead for our partners. And I'd say that includes our broader like community partners as well.
Yeah, That's
awesome.
Put a bow.
Thank you so much, Mariah.
A nomination for Mariah
best.
to just replace me on this thing. Yeah? Am I out of it? Did I get out of it?
Maybe we could rotate.
Guest co-host.
Yeah.
There we go.
I love talking, so.
Yeah. Well, we could do that, and maybe it's like we just have maybe the format is like 2 Bulu people and a guest, and like I don't even have to be here. You know what I'm saying? Like, but like
you have to be here.
Okay. I'll do it. No, but you know what I'm saying? Like we could rotate it. So no, I think that's really solid for our first episode, and I'm sure they'll edit it and make it look awesome. But thank you so much. Like I really can't express how grateful I am.
And like what a coincidence. You were just walking by. Thank God.
This was not at all planned.
I know. And you interrupted me. How dare you? But seriously, like how I was getting like sincere. I was on a roll.
Sorry.
I was showing emotion. Well, whatever. Okay, we'll see you later, Mariah. No, but like sincerely, thank you. We're super grateful. You know, not only were you the best interview ever, but you turned out beyond my wildest ideas, dreams, or whatever. And it's I appreciate that I get the opportunity to work with you. Thank you for all you do. It's
thank you guys.
It's
thanks,
cool to
thanks,
see
Mo.
where you're going.
That's her nickname, but only us teammates.
And now back to Mo from the Agro Crog. All right, I think for our first episode, that was a fantastic start, and more importantly, bringing in Mariah made it amazing. That I really love the format of we're gonna chat a little bit, but we're gonna bring in people that are actually doing the work, whether it's at our place or somewhere else, and then let's actually talk about software that we're using. Let's talk about KPIs and benchmarks, and it's not just another asshole CEO on a podcast ranting. Wait. Get it? What were your thoughts after hearing Mariah on customer service?
Yeah, well, like working with such a talented group of people, Mariah being one of them, and we're just always so busy, heads down, doing so much work for our partners that, when we first kind of said we're going to launch this Box Talks podcast, we were like, okay, who can we get to be on this podcast with us? And we're looking at all these individuals.
Actually, I think it was like, wait, what are we doing? And then I'm like, sign the contract. You're like, God damn it, what'd you do?
Yeah, totally.
Another signed contract that you never looked at.
Yeah. And so like we thought, I just really like the idea that, we've got the most talented and experienced subscription box experts on our team.
Right.
And we don't really have to look outside for everything. We certainly are going to do that too, right? We're going to bring in some interesting people. We think we've got like Matthew from Loot Crate, assuming that comes through. Like we're going to talk to some interesting people about their experiences in subscription boxes. But I like, a balance between that and our own team because, like I said, we've launched 17 programs, executed 17 subscription box ongoing programs.
Yeah.
And then dozens of like unique one-off projects.
Which is like
we've shipped millions of boxes over years. So
plants or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So while someone else might have a lot of experience managing their one box program, we have experience managing multiple completely unique subscription boxes. So I'm totally like tooting our own horn, but I think sometimes I have to stop and step back and be like, wait,
I feel like
we've got the expertise. So I'm really excited to pull team members in.
Yeah. I feel like after 9 years, you've earned that right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know that if it's coming out of your mouth and, hearing other people, I'm like, well, it's clearly that's correct because you and a lot of the people that work at Bulu aren't the type of people that are going to tout that unless it's true. And honestly, I don't think it's any secret of we have good relationships with a lot of subscription box owners and founders, and there's Slack channels where we're talking to all of them, being part of Subta and that group with Paul and Chris, and, we could kind of name drop all day. But then you have these conversations like we had yesterday. And I'll be respectful of the person, but it was a CEO of like a major subscription box, like one of the top subscription boxes. And you run into this, I was talking to Stephanie and I was like, you don't realize how much we know until you speak to like somebody that's in a similar position.
Yes.
And then you see their background. And although that some of those companies might have more like, or people might have like a technical, like, I grew up and I went to school for operations or like whatever it is. I say the only thing that we might lack a little bit is like the technical language. But when it comes down to the actual execution, like, fuck, who cares about the jargon? Like, this shit's getting done better and faster than anybody. And I always worry that for us, like, because we were born and bred out of like subscription and subscription fulfillment, that, are we saying that in a correct enough way? Which I think the answer is yes, considering some of the clients that we work with. But I do think that's a hump. You can probably think of like one of the big partners that like, they're a little bit concerned of like, are we going to be too big for you or whatever? And we're like, yo, you're not even like a fraction of our business. It's like, don't let maybe the loose or the lack of jargon or like, I'm not wearing a suit or whatever. Like, don't let that throw you through a loop. Like, we know this shit better than anybody else. And, would you rather have somebody that uses big words and has a nice tie, or do you want it done the best, most correct way possible?
Yeah.
And I think that, this podcast will, like help get that message out to the correct people. But more importantly, we're going to have actionable stuff for people. And it feels good to put something into the world that you fucking wish was there like 8 or 9 years ago, And you're like, the entrepreneurs and people listening, like I can feel them going like, holy shit, there's somebody that's actually giving me content and I don't have to Google for a million things.
Yeah.
And I don't have to like look everywhere. Like, she literally said, this is the software that you use. Hallelujah.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I feel like as professionals, you and I, Paul, and even the rest of the team at Bulu, if I think back to like our younger days, we used to be a little bit more like, well, don't give away our secrets.
Right,
we can't tell people how to do it.
Yeah.
Then they'll do it themselves. And then why would they work with us?
You do that when you're threatened.
Yeah. And I think now we have enough confidence to know the value that we bring to our partners.
Yeah.
And we have enough, like, we truly do want to like help people. Like Mariah said at the end of our like discussion, like, we're about abundance, put it out to the world, help people. There's enough success for everybody.
Yeah. Amen to that.
And if we can help people grow, hopefully they get to a point where, at some point they either want to partner with us because we can take something off their plate, or they recommend us to someone else, like, yeah, we've got a lot to share. I'm excited to share it.
Reminds me when we have people that call us, I'm like, okay, so you're in the sales funnel. And they're like, what? I'm like, this is step one. I like literally, I'm like, you are in the sales funnel and here's what we're going to do. And they're like, they're just telling me. And I'm like, well, we're just going to tell you what we do. And if it matches, that's great. And if not, that's fine too. I'll actually give you the answers and you can do it yourself. Oh. And people are just like, they're just stupefied by it. They're like, what? Okay. So like, I could just do this. And I'm like, well, yeah, but like, is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
And or I'm like, well, here, we'll do it for this price, or you can contact this competitor. They'll do it at this price, or you could just download the software and do it yourself. And they don't know what to do with that,
Yeah.
But what the nice thing is that the goal is get people the answers that they're searching for. If we happen to be it, that's awesome. But if not, like, I think this is the key to it. I'm literally like, hey, will you just go tell people about your experience on this, like working with us, right, on this call or whatever. And so I think after you put in the work of 9 years, after you have seen it all from, nothing subscription box to a Disney, after you do 50 different launches programs, 17 fully loaded box programs, and there's kind of like nowhere else to go. And then you see the market that's growing. You have a choice of like, I can either let everybody know that I exist and grow with the market, or you can be like, I'm going to circle my wagon tighter. And we've seen people do that and die. They like suffocate themselves. So you're like, we got to put this shit out in the world and like, let it come back. But it all feels like full circle. Here's content for this, here's software for this. And I'm super excited. I know we're not going to have a huge listenership, right?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But for the people that do take the time to listen to it, I think it is going to be super, super strong content.
And for the
them.
people who do listen to it, we'll make sure wherever this exists that we share how to get in touch with us, because
Buy my merch.
I want to know what questions they have so that we can give them the content they want.
For sure.
Right. And if we don't know the answer, we'll find someone that does.
Yeah. Now poor Mariah's like, I got to get that damn Twitter thing going now. I know that's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
That's great. So, all right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Appreciate your time, Mariah's time. How do we end this thing? This has been Box Talks with Paul and Stephanie. I had a weird way to end this at the very end of the episode.
Yeah.
I love you.
Warm regards.
No, I'm saying it to you.
Yeah, my sign off is warm regards.
Oh, I see. You should have said thank you. I go, I love you. You go, thank you.
I like.
Could we do that?
Warm regards.
Okay, you say it now. No.
Which part? Oh, right. I love you too.
No. Thank you. Oh, God damn it.
We make a good team.
Oh, it's funny to me.
All right.
People are probably listening going with that. So yeah, that will be edited.
They stopped listening hours ago.
No, actually, probably like one of the messages I want to, how could I say it? What do we always say? Are you still having fun?
Oh yeah. I'm still having fun and I'm still learning. That's the mix for me.
Yep.
When it comes to.
No, that was like the tagline outro.
Oh.
Still having fun? Yep. Still having fun? Yep. It doesn't work.
I thought you just wanted to talk.
No. Well, I will ask you that. Are you still having fun?
I am having fun.
Yeah. Are you
still having fun?
I am. It's weird. It's fucked up in a pandemic world. Right?
When you said in the beginning, we started this in 2012. I'm like, yeah. So in 2019, that would have been 7 years. In 2020, it's like 75 years ago.
Also,
we started this 75 years ago because 2020 is a time warp.
If you look back on our emails, technically, like we started chipping away in 2011, but like the business didn't start until 2012. So it's like,
use the official date. Don't try and pad it.
Yeah.
All right. Till next episode.
Cheers, mate. I love you.
I love you.
Oh, I got you to say it.